Hello and welcome back to the Rainbow Pitch League. This is round 4 of the Rainbow Pitch League, so we are a little over halfway through the Swiss. I am Elaine, and joined with me this week is Scott Helling Mines. How are you doing today?
I'm really well, thank you, Elaine. Thank you for having me back. Turns out people didn't hate me the first time, which is great, especially when other casters are off enjoying themselves in Auckland, which is incredibly irresponsible of their other duties, but I'm sure we can forgive Kiki for their transgressions. But until then, very happy to be here. Looking forward to watching some good flesh and blood, hopefully.
Yeah, super happy to have you here. We have a Gravy versus Katsu match today. Do you have any thoughts on the matchup?
Ooh, that's a potentially controversial one, depending on who you want to listen to. I think the common consensus is that Ninja is where you want to be, leaning into Gravy Bones. Mask of Momentum's really powerful at drawing you some additional cards from all of your guaranteed on hits, but unlike a ninja like Ira, who might have Whirling Mist Blossom and the like, there's not quite as many payoffs for a deck like Katsu. So you kind of have to leverage Katsu's hero ability to make up for that. You can kind of guarantee your combo cards and chain things together, but you're not always sending those combo cards at Gravy, which makes things a little bit awkward sometimes. I'm going to be keeping my eyes out for Dishonor, mostly. If Katsu can line up that big Dishonor turn against a hero like Gravy Bones, it's really hard to play allies when you don't have a hero ability, and unsurprisingly, the game gets a bit harder after that. So, yeah, definitely some important cards to watch here.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'm excited for it. I think I pretty much agree with your analysis, so let's jump in after a quick word from our sponsors. Okay, so it looks like our Gravy player, Bird on Gravy, well, I don't know if they won the die roll or not, but she is going to go first here. Thinking about a potential compass activation.
Yeah, going first, this compass activation is kind of free. The compass is going to untap itself before we head into the next turn anyway. But compass is a really skill testing card with Gravy. There's a lot of reasons why you might want to look, why you might not want to look. So sequencing things correctly, definitely going to take a little bit of practice. We'll have some Jittery Bones to kick things off here on Bird's side. Binning this Chum, which is a pretty potent start here. Chum going to be great at soaking up some of this early damage, but does tend to be a bit of a target for Katsu to kind of guarantee those on hits. On the Katsu side, really interesting here. We're on all the new equipment. We're on Edge of Autumn, the Arcana Scar Wraps and stuff, which is obviously brand new from Armory Deck Ira. So some maybe new lines of play to look forward to from Katsu here as well from May.
Yeah, that's kind of exciting. I'm not sure that I've actually gotten to watch many games with the new equipment in the Ninja deck yet, so excited to see that.
Yeah, they can be very powerful in a pinch for sure.
Tip the barkeep, make a Gold Kiss Rum. So this is really not a bad turn 0. Make a Gold Kiss Rum and get a Chum into graveyard.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see how Bird navigates this matchup. I think a lot of Gravies will tell you that you need to pick when you want to establish your allies, because they are a bit of a liability. If you just establish them all the time, this Surging Strike that we see on May's side of the table right now would just be guaranteed to hit if that's something that May wanted to do. So you've really got to not just jam them in play like you would do in every other matchup. There needs to be a little bit of control, maybe wait until there's a bit of a stockpile, and then leverage one big turn with tokens like Gold Kiss Rum to get the most of them before they become a liability.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because if not, these attacks can just go straight into allies hit and trigger some really good on hits that ninjas tend to present, especially Katsu.
Absolutely. So Surging Strike here, kind of the bread and butter play that we're used to from Katsu over the years. This is kind of that big starter for all of his most infamous combo lines. So May here going to be pretty happy to have this one to kick things off. And it's definitely going to be worth watching those Arcana Scar wraps. Gravy, not a deck with a ton of defense reactions, typically just 3 copies of Blood in the Water, which means you can kind of threaten to have a repeatable breaking scales in a matchup like this, thanks to Edge of Autumn kind of coming back every time a Vengeance attack hits. So if this Surging Strike is a red, which I can't quite tell unfortunately, it could be a 6 power attack if that's what May wanted. However, this time round, looks like we kind of saw a chum in the hand there for Bird, so maybe a couple too many allies. That Surging Strike's going to hit, and we have that Katsu trigger kicking things off here, so combos from the start for May.
Yeah, and running Balance of Justice, which I do believe is the correct choice in this matchup, but it does mean that that Bird doesn't have the gold to start and can't just like filter away these non-blocking cards.
Yeah, good spot on the Balance of Justice there. Obviously not impossible for Katsu to draw numerous cards. Worth noting on the other side, of course, Mask of the Pouncing Lynx is the choice here for Katsu, which might be a bit strange based on what we said about Mask of Momentum at the beginning of this game, but I think it's a really big testament to May's understanding of this matchup and how important that Dishonor line is. You really need to be able to threaten to take away Gravy Bone's hero ability, and Mask of the Pouncing Lynx and Katsu's hero ability kind of threaten to fill in the missing links. That headpiece, of course, searching for the powerful Dishonor itself in a pinch if you need to. So going to be always on the mind of Bird Cabrera as we carry on through these turns, and they're going to want to stay Gravy. It's really hard to play this game if they don't have the ability to do all the blue things they want to do.
Yeah, definitely.
Big shout out to the Katsu token as well on the side here for May, kind of demonstrating that trigger for us nice and cleanly. It is appreciated. It's really hard to track when things have been used sometimes, especially now that heroes can't tap because they could be tapped by other things. Ancestral Empowerment here, kind of coming out of the woodwork. This is another iconic one from Welcome to Wraith way back when. No need for extra damage here, just looking to filter into new cards, keep that combo chain going. This very much could be good or bad for Bird. Bonds of Ancestry not at its best on the first turn of the game, but thanks to that block going first and the little discard there from Katsu's ability of this additional underwhelming Gust Wave, as I like to call it, there is a target in the bin here in the Gust Wave of the second wind, so this is a really impressive first turn here for May. This is a lot of damage, and while it won't be ending in Dishonor, this is kind of exactly what you're looking for as an early start in a matchup like this.
Yeah, and we've got the balance block here. This is, I mean, like you said, this is just a really powerful turn for May, taking Bird all the way down to 28 this turn, and nowhere near over, I don't think. And Bird still has a non-block in hand, gonna draw a card off the Balance of Justice, which might give some blocking ability, or maybe just give another card to come back even harder.
Yeah, definitely looks like we're in one of two worlds here. Either Bird is in trouble and was very much needing to pop that Balance of Justice to find some defensive tools to soak up the last of this damage, or they are very happy with the hand they have found. We can expect maybe some Conqueror of the High Seas, maybe some of these really big impactful cards we've come to know and love from Gravy, and that's why they're willing to take so much heat. And this is definitely one of the sacrifices you make by choosing to start Mask of the Pouncing Lynx in this matchup, is that Gravy isn't obligated to block. They're not stopping additional card draw from Mask of Momentum one way or the other. They can just let that damage kind of connect if that's what they're interested in doing. So let's see what the follow-up from Bird looks like here. Going to be kicking things off with the infamous Golden Tipple. This one is definitely kind of the bread and butter of Gravy Bones. Very much the engine piece here. Discarding another chum, making a gold in the process, continuing to filter that hand.
Yeah, and the hook activation before playing this as well, threatening another gold on hit. I think this may be a blue Golden Tipple. It's kind of hard to tell. But if it is, it's like, do you really want to give up a card or an equipment if you're May just to block one to prevent that gold?
Yeah, the gold-baited hook timing definitely really interesting in a deck like Gravy. Typically, you can put it on these kind of smaller attacks that are more annoying to block, or you can put it on the much larger ones that allies like Swabby and things to make them really difficult to stop without committing several cards. In this situation, May has all the tempo here as Katsu. They're going to be really reluctant to give up cards to shut things down, and it's pretty clear that Bird is kind of interested in leveraging that to their advantage. They know they have 5-6 cards even with the arsenal here to work with, courtesy of that balance of justice. So there's the looming threat of things like Conqueror of the High Seas, these more pressing on hits, and we see it coming down right now from Bird on the other side of the table. These are the on hits you have to think about stopping if you're on May's side, because you might care about your arsenal, you might care about the other situations, and if you're stopping these on hits, you can't be stopping the one power golden tipple at the same time.
Yeah, and this Conqueror is coming in, threatening another goal because May does have an arsenal here. So you've, like, yep, creating 3 gold here on Bird, I think is really good and can try and help her a lot in this matchup and trying to close this life gap and throw a lot of damage, kind of gain back some speed. I believe that is a Call to the Grave that just got played from Arsenal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really interesting one in the arsenal of May as well, actually. I believe that's a Ravenous Rabble that bit the dust, courtesy of that Conqueror of the High Seas. Not a card you see in Katsu very often, but definitely a testament of a need of more go-again attacks in a matchup like this to kind of challenge those allies and keep the tempo going. Interesting to see Rigor Mortis being the ally kind of center of choice here. This one lines up pretty badly into Edge of Autumn, truth be told, but that's not always a bad thing in this matchup, because if Edge of Autumn is taking care of an ally, then Katsu's ability isn't being triggered, you aren't guaranteeing those combo lines, so you kind of put your opponent in a bit of a bind. They can guarantee their combos, but they waste value in the process, or they can kind of pick it off with Edge of Autumn. But we're going to see Loot the Hold here. This is actually very, very important in a spot like this for Bird. This threatening to discard cards from May's hand should Rigor Mortis connect. You can see they were kind of trying to demand cards with that Conqueror to make this more likely to connect, steal all this tempo back, but so far May has been pretty happy to just soak up the damage. This one is going to take a card away from them one way or the other.
Yeah, I mean, a Conqueror at least helped bring May's kind of 5 card turn into a 4 card turn and Loot the Hold, potentially threatening to bring it down to a 3 card turn if May wants to continue threatening damage. I do think this is like, I don't think Gravy can often offer a ton of disruption, but this is one way that Gravy can, and Bird is taking advantage of that.
Yeah, Loot the Hold, a really good one for these types of matchups. Very important against the ninjas and the other aggressive decks that typically give Gravy some trouble. Katsu not known for playing well off of small hands, unfortunately. That Heart and Cross Strap is going to do a lot of work in that department, kind of pay for a Surging Strike in a pinch without needing a card to pitch, kind of enable a combo line on a much smaller hand. But typically, you really do want to have a number of resources to work with. It allows you to bluff those combat tricks like Ancestral Empowerment. It allows you to have cards to discard to Katsu, maybe sneak some other combo lines in there and smoke screen things a bit. If you're kind of obliged to give cards thanks to Loot the Hold, it's a lot harder to represent those possibilities.
What May does here is, like, still just thinking about blocks. I mean, this is a decision point, definitely. Do I take 6 damage and only have 3 cards, or, you know, save some life here? It looks like we're gonna try and save some life.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. This was a very tough situation here for May. You could tell they had decided that they wanted to keep their foot on the gas. They were the one with the tempo heading into this turn. And Rigor Mortis alongside Loot the Hold kind of forcing them to give up some equity. Didn't really play into their plan when they kind of ate that Conqueror of the High Seas with their face. So reanalyzing the situation, adjusting accordingly, deciding that, hey, soaking up some damage here is going to be the way to go. And it wouldn't surprise me here if we kind of see a small 2-card hand, something like a blue to fuel Edge of Autumn into one of those big infamous 2-cost attacks like Command and Conquer or something like that to kind of make the most of these 2-card hands. But we'll see what May can manage off of a much, much smaller hand this time around. Definitely looks to be some consideration here. Okay, Ravenous Rabble is going to be the play. This is one we kind of alluded to earlier as a bit of a surprise in these decks. It is a Ancestral Harmony on top of the deck, which is not normally something you want to see as Katsu, but thankfully when you're aiming at a Rigor Mortis, you can't really miss. It's gonna fall by the wayside one way or the other. So pretty conservative turn here, actually. Just choosing to use that Ravenous Rabble to eliminate Rigor Mortis, and then Arsenal that leftover card, kind of build a bigger turn for later.
Yeah, it is really. I think that's just like a very smart play from May. Just like, let's take out an ally, clear this rigor mortis, because I don't think I'm going to be able to throw enough damage back for it to be worth it to leave rigor mortis on the board one more time.
I'm actually really interested to see what the arsenal is here for May. I wonder if the fact they saw an Ancestral Harmony on top of their deck might have convinced them to save a combo card that might otherwise have attacked last turn to try and get some additional value from that heading into the next turn. So very curious to see what they parked. A little less curious about the third chum making his way to the graveyard here. So a bit of a stockpile of first mates for Bird. Not found a great spot to leverage them yet, but if you're looking for a friend, we've got plenty.
Have a Sloop Water Swell coming in. This is just like another good card in Gravy. Allows Gravy to go a little bit wider with the Go Again. So I believe this one is a red coming in for 6 with Go Again.
Yeah, definitely a card that's picked up in popularity as Gravy's become more popular. You just need more ways to challenge allies in the mirror match. So those go again attacks really important. This one a popper against Prism Awakener of Soul as well. Very impactful in a matchup like this. We'll give credit to Bird, of course. Had a fantastic run at US Nationals this year. And you can see that in their little stamped Swiftwater Sloop, which I'm sure played an important part in many of their Scurv decks. They were infamous for drafting over the course of that weekend. So happy to see her still rocking that one with a little LSS stamp in the bottom corner.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to hang out with Bird a good bit in Singapore, and it did some drafts ahead of time in our group, and Bird was still infamous for drafting Scarf.
Some people have all the luck. They might also have all the Swiftwater Sloops, apparently, according to the situation we find ourselves in here. Again, these big, powerful boats just charging in with Go Again. This one not stamped, and I am appropriately disappointed, but I'm sure we'll manage. That gold-baited hook doing a great job of making another gold as a result here. Putting May all the way down to 18. This has been a pretty big tempo swing back in the other direction, and we can kind of see that plan I alluded to earlier coming in full effect here. Bird's been very careful to leverage those allies, making sure that she doesn't extend them for no reason, make them a liability in the face of Katsu's hero ability, and that's why we see that stockpile of chums in the graveyard. However, on the other side, that Ancestral Harmony we got a peek of a minute ago did flip over a Whelming Gust Wave. I believe that actually came out of the arsenal, so that might not be the only Ancestral Harmony of this turn, so we might be setting up for some rather large combo shenanigans here on the side of May. I think it's a yellow Whelming Gust Wave, which is definitely a cute nod to that Mask of the Pouncing Lynx. Make sure you've got a more powerful one to go find in a pinch as well.
Yeah, I believe you're right that Ancestral Harmony was played from Arsenal, and we saw one revealed on the top with the Ravenous Rabble, so there's probably another one coming in this turn. And I imagine this is going to be a powerful turn for May. Just she soaked up so much damage from Bird, and really just kind of had the attitude of send me the bill during Bird's turn. So I'm imagining she's planning on hitting back pretty hard.
Yeah, a lot of potential here. Of course, that Harmony is a blue, so it might find itself being the resource card of the turn if the first one is already connected. Maybe we don't always have the greatest amount of Go Again. Whelming Gust Wave, of course, very powerful if you can find a Surging Strike before it, but it's not going to have Go Again naturally if you don't. So May taking a moment here to maybe consider how on earth they have to sequence this turn with the information they've since learned from the top of their deck. And I don't blame them for taking a moment. Obviously sunk a lot of damage here. Going to be a lot of permutations to consider. It's maybe one of the funnest things about Katsu as a deck. You do, of course, have your most powerful combo lines you default to in spots, but finding those weird scenarios where you can dig up a Fluster Fist after Retrace the Past or something really cool like Break Tide definitely kind of lets you smokescreen the potential to your opponent. It also makes you take 5 minutes to think about all of your options. So it does go both ways. We do... Okay, really big turn here coming in for May. We see that Heart and Cross Strap being popped. Going to pay for a Surging Strike, and all of a sudden, the hand makes sense. Everything kind of comes together. That Whelming Gust Wave is going to be active and online. And again, those Arcana Scar Wraps are lurking, so we do have the ability to give a little bit of extra juice to any of these attacks in a pinch too.
We have a Blood on the Water block. This one's just for 4. It looks like Bird just kind of blind flipped out the top of the deck and hit Saltwater Swell.
Mm-hmm.
Not a card with Watery Grave.
Not ideal, no, but we do actually see this from a surprising amount of Gravy players. In matchups like this, we're not going long, there's no pitch stacks, we don't have to worry about resources or anything of the like, so blind flipping those cards just gives you the potential to suck up some bonus damage in a pinch. This Descendant Gust Wave is frankly terrifying. This is the one that's going to enable all of those delightful Dishonor lines we talked about earlier on, and Katsu hasn't been used here as far as I'm aware on that first attack, so definitely threatening to put the pieces together, go find a Bonds, go find the Dishonor maybe, and that Mask of the Pouncing Link's going to be able to find the missing Dishonor if they would prefer. So threatening all of the marbles here in a pinch if that's what May wants to do. Of course, the potential to create another Surging Strike after this as well, maybe give that Whelming Gust Wave that we know is in the Banish Zone a go again. So lots of permutations for Bird to consider here, and maybe not the best tools for blocking it given their hesitation.
Yeah, there is some gold up, so Bird can have a Gravy activation if it is the case that she has no blocks in hand and wants to try and fish a little bit for a blocking card. But yeah, I mean, this is not the card you want to be staring down at.
No, this is a pretty big turn, and we expected as much after May sunk all of that damage, but I think it's a really good call out to acknowledge Gravy's hero ability here. We've talked about the flexibility of Compass a few times in this game, and we're not going to be seeing it here, but it does mean you can theoretically alter the cards in your hand in the opponent's turn. Instead, looks like Bird is leaning into committing cards here to Descendant Gust Wave. This is really painful. This looks like a block for 6, and it needs to be, because we're getting the extra juice from that Ancestral Harmony, and those Arcana Scar Wraps are lurking, threatening to make it even bigger. We do see them being popped here to try and push this over the top, and it will be that quick dodge flexes being cashed in to stop this from happening. So the dynamic of this game just changed in a pretty significant way. For now, May has no Edge of Autumn, which makes it a little bit harder to handle those small pesky allies, the Rigor Mortises, the Oystons that have 1 health, and getting that weapon back might prove to be really difficult. However, these quick dodge flexes have been committed, we expect them to do some more damage, but they're not going to be enough alone to soak up this Retrace the Past, which is threatening to keep this turn spinning and go even wider for May. So why Bird may have respected the capabilities of Dishonor, those capabilities haven't stopped here just because they turned off Descendant Gust Wave. It's still very possible. It's my favorite sign of distress. When people are tapping on the table, doing the math, you know one of two things is happening. Either they're in trouble and trying to find a way out, or you're against Kano and you're in trouble because they're counting up how to murder you horrifically. So no Kano in this game, so I have to think Bird consciously aware of the possibilities of what this turn may lead into and trying to find some way to not end up in a horrific spot afterwards.
Yeah, and May moving over the the combat chain before making her next move is a little bit scary. Not something I like to see when playing against a ninja. Say, I actually think I'm gonna need more space to finish out this turn.
Yeah, nothing says I'm not done like shifting everything about 3 centimeters to the left. It's a pretty telling signal here. We do see this Katsu ability being cashed in, and I'm going to be really interested to see what May chooses to grab here. Retrace the Past, of course, has the ability to name anything with an on hit, so you have the ability to turn it into all kinds of nonsense, and we're going to see that in full effect here. So Breeze Rider Boots being cashed in to give all the combo cards go again, and we're going to go and fetch Bonds of Ancestry. So that Whelming Gust Wave, that's going to have go again. The Bonds is going to have go again. The Bonds is going to fish something out of the bin. That'll have go again. Mask of the Pouncing Links will have go again. This is going to be... we might need a second playmat for this one. May really swing in for the hills here.
Yeah, this, and you know, Bird only has 1 more card in their hand, and not much equipment block left. I mean, the hook and Jet Threads block for 1, but you know, Dead Threads is Blade Break, so it's not really something that you really want to be committing to a block with unless absolutely necessary.
So my instinct says this Retrace the Past was renamed into Surging Strike to kind of put this all together. So now this Whelming Gust Wave, not only bigger from Ancestral Harmony, but bigger from its own ability, going to threaten to draw another card because there was a Surging Strike before it. Perhaps more importantly, that Bonds of Ancestry is going to be active afterwards. So think about how bad it could be, then add a whole extra suitcase of bad. Like this is pretty problematic from Bird's side. And again, we can see them taking the time here to really deliberate over this. And this is exactly what the best players in Flesh and Blood will do. There are avenues to find here, and between that gold-baited hook, the dead threads we talked about before, the one resource left for flexes, there is the potential at the very least to keep Dishonor from ruining your entire day. But if you want to respect that, you've got to kind of just eat all of this damage now, and maybe May just ends up on something else that doesn't feel quite as pressing, and then you let cards get drawn for no reason. So there's a lot of permutations here, and I don't blame Bird for taking the time to think about it, especially with that gold available with Gravy Bones' hero ability.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be a lot of damage coming in this turn. This is
where I'll give all the respect to both of our competitors. They're taking this in their stride. You can tell they're still having fun. I would be cursing. I would be saying some slightly less savory things. So it's a fair play to May and Bird for making the most of this.
yeah, I mean, I can testify that when I was editing this game and could hear the audio, there was no cursing. There was friendly banter going back and forth. Yeah.
There are distinct types of players, and it's one of the nice things about the calling level too, just kind of hearing that table chatter from people still having a good time when turns like this are happening. And while it's pretty obvious May is going to be enjoying herself, I would be if I was on that side of the table, it's not necessarily obvious that Bird would be enjoying herself as well. So very happy to see these players were still having a good time, being chummy despite the three chums that are lurking in the yard and have done a whole lot of nothing so far for Bird. So we see them fanning out, May here on the other side fanning out their graveyard, showing the potential targets for that Bonds of Ancestry. There is some Fluster Fists in there, there is some Seek Vengeances, and of course that Mask of the Pouncing Lynx still available as well. So as we kind of allude to, every combo line is still on the table here, which is why this is such a difficult decision. Kind of see Bird's hands lurking ever so slightly over the Gravy Bones hero card there, just debating that little hero ability activation. Maybe you can improve that card in your hand. Makes me think it's probably not a 3-block. It's hard to improve that very much from Gravy, but Bird does know the top card of the deck. They did choose to use the Compass here, so they have gained a little bit of information. They know what the switch would represent, so clearly there is a little bit of potential for that to happen should they want to cash in a gold, but I just can't get over the impending sense of dread, the inevitable internal screaming that would be going on this side of the table for me.
Yeah. I mean, clearly, so, yeah, I think that Bird kind of did a good job trying to stealing the arsenal out of May's, stealing an arsenal and getting 3 cards out of May's hands about 2 turns ago, I think it was. And then, May had that off turn, pass back to Bird. Bird was able to take May down to 18th, but this is another shift in May's. We've just seen the momentum shifting back and forth this whole game, but this is I think this is a pretty major shift in momentum. So what do you think like Bird needs to see to come back from a turn like this?
I actually want to give some major props to Bird here with the decision they just made to let this Whelming Gust Wave connect. I think a lot of less experienced players will probably sit there and, I can't let them draw a card. The turn gets so much worse. It might be 4 value, it might be 5 value. And I think Bird has correctly identified that in order to win this game, they need May to draw a brick. They need that draw off of the Whelming Gust Wave to be completely irrelevant, because you're not going to win any of the games where it's meaningful. And so I think making that spot and just accepting that, yes, it's correct for me here to take the heat and soak up the damage and kind of hope I get a little bit lucky is a really good spot. And we see here that May has chosen to respect that in return and is banishing away Seek Vengeance here as the follow-up attack. So It's important to note the Dishonor line here is not turned off. We are on a Breeze Rider Boots turn, so all of these attacks have go again. So we can theoretically pop that mask and grab it if that's what we want to do. We see kind of May doing the tally here on names and making sure everything tracks. But there will be less unknown information here. I think at this point, everything is face up. Bird knows there is a mask to respect, and this Seek Vengeance coming afterwards, one unknown card in hand. So to get out of this, there's not a lot of universes, but Gravy does have a lot of these cards that kind of let you play impactful small hands. So you can find things like Chart the High Seas. Maybe you can spin some of that gold together to find a third card in a hand that might otherwise have 0 or 1. And that's kind of the best way to play these small Conqueror of the High Seas. Maybe you can play a Rigor Mortis and swing for 6. We saw Loot the Hold doing good work in a similar way earlier. And that's what Bird's going to need here. They're going to have to blunt this Assault as best they can, shut down this Dishonor if possible. It's going to require the last card in their hand, all of their equipment, and this is very much what we expected when this turn started playing out, and it was another blood in the water here, so even better, going to be able to successfully block out as big a possible Dishonor. So exceptionally well navigated by Bird. Love to see that. But they're going to need to take this heat. No cards here. They're going to need Katsu to have a hand that resembles a wet ham sandwich and does next to nothing in order to kind of gain some tempo back and play a very small hand next turn. So looking pretty dismal, but not completely over. Bird just going to need a little bit of luck from May's deck, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think the 2 Blood on Our Waters in Bird's hand that turn was just like really lucky, and I totally agree with you. Bird navigated the blocks, I think, as best that she could at that turn. And I mean, we'll see if she can dig herself out of this position that May has kind of put her in. But you know, at the same time, like, May has also piloted this Katsu deck really well and shown us what Katsu can do, because Katsu can really run away at times, and that's exactly what just happened.
Yeah, a small spot that's worth mentioning for May, and again, very well navigated, is they chose to dig up that Seek Vengeance from the Bonds of Ancestry at the end of the turn, which means they have pulled their Edge of Autumn back, managed to retrieve that from a Vengeance card hitting, which means this turn can leverage a more awkward hand. It's really hard to brick as Katsu if you can turn those blues into somewhat meaningful stuff. And we kind of see here this Seek Vengeance blue coming across the line. This one going to be threatening to keep things going, is going to have go again here thanks to that Edge of Autumn, and we can see Bird just asking, hey, can I get a better idea of how many copies of each of these things you have left in your deck? How many bonds have you been through? How many Whelming Gust Waves are left? And May obliging here, just fanning out the graveyard, making it easy for both players to see, trying to best understand whether or not they need to respect this attack. And that's a very tough decision. Denying combo lines from Katsu is very important if you want to keep their turns in check, but Bird needs to block very carefully here in order to keep some number of cards to steal some amount of tempo back. If they just keep giving up the hand every turn, Katsu's going to be in Christmas land.
Yeah, Katsu can pretty easily go over the top of blocking ability, especially if you're Gravy. It looks like Bird does want to go ahead and activate Gravy. Probably has a no block, and Rigor Mortis being put into the graveyard. Trying to get some blocking. Maybe wants to be able to block this turn.
Yeah, makes some sense, and again, just very well navigated here by Bird, knowing they can gain more information before committing to their blocks. Something I see a lot of newer Gravy players making the mistake of is agreeing that they need to block this attack, much like Bird is, but doing so before activating Gravy, not gaining that free information, not figuring out what the hand looks like first. And again, small details, didn't use the compass here because they know they're discarding Rigor Mortis, they don't want it in their hand, it's got to go. So you're always drawing the card that's on top anyway. There's no need to waste that compass on information that is a surefire thing. So Bird doing everything they can here to give themselves every edge and find a way to sneak back into this game. I think committing to this block here is very strong, especially with this Tipple, which is a bit dodgy otherwise. A 2-block obviously not lining up particularly well on defense against many other attacks. We do, of course, have May here in the tank debating whether or not they want to use Arcana Scar Wraps to ping this Seek Vengeance over the top of this Golden Tipple and guarantee a Katsu activation. That's very potent, but if you think you're going to be activating Katsu anyway, it's a risk you might not need to take. So looks like we are going to see it here. The
Yep.
Scar Wraps pinging away Edge of Autumn. Going to make this Seek Vengeance a little bit bigger. And yeah, so no response here from Bird does mean the risk pays off. That Edge of Autumn comes flying straight back into Katsu's hand because a Vengeance attack did hit. And we're going to see that Katsu ability getting activated here to go find something rather nasty, I imagine. So Exert Vengeance probably up there. No need for the CNC ability this time, but it's just big. It's just rather large. Would make a decent amount of sense here. But of course, May still has multiple cards available. We see at least one in hand, maybe one in arsenal as well. So it looks like the follow-up is going to be another copy of Seek Vengeance. Little known trick, of course. That Edge of Autumn you attacked with previously, if you flick it away and pull it back, that's a new Edge of Autumn. It can attack again, and it can enable go again on a Seek Vengeance. Again, there was a lot of agains in that sentence, but there's a lot of attacks on this combat chain, and so I feel bad about nothing.
Sunken treasure here, maybe turning over like the yellow whelming gust wave or something of sorts. Get one of those cards out of May's graveyard and make a gold yourself. It's not a bad idea.
No, Sunken Treasure are a pretty good card in this matchup, typically. Does let you turn down Bonds of Ancestry targets to kind of stop your opponent from digging up the thing they want. Unfortunately for Bird, those Bonds have already done their damage. So here, just very much playing defense, trying to soak up some damage. And we do see that Exert Vengeance coming down afterwards here. It's going to earn a block of at least 3 from Bird. Not worried about that on hit because they have no arsenal. Going to fall all the way down to 1 in order to keep a card here. Now, this does make some amount of sense. It wouldn't surprise me. We saw a chart the High Seas on blocking duty there, so Rigor Mortis is the ally in hand. It's the only card that couldn't block. We're going to have to spin our wheels on some gold to find a blue, and then hopefully that blue can get us Rigor Mortis back at least and present some kind of pressure, but unfortunately for Bird, it looks like that is not the case, and the card found is going in the arsenal instead. So only 1 life to work with, and Edge of Autumn's got a 1 in the bottom left-hand corner. So gonna have to respect this one immediately, unfortunately.
Yeah, it looks like committing Dead Threads to block here. I think the card put in Arsenal was a Golden Tipple. But yeah, 1 is just a really hard place to be at when you're facing a ninja.
Yeah, it does kind of put that pressure scenario on you from both sides of things. But Be Like Water here, going to be the follow-up. And this is kind of where Arcana Scar Wraps is at its best. Yeah, this is attacking for 3, but it's not attacking for 3. It's attacking for 4. So you have to give up 2 cards, and then the Scar Wraps is still available afterwards. That Eye of Ophidia is a nice, shiny $500 bill, but it's no good to you if you have no life to work with. So commiserations to Bird Cabrera there. Gravy not quite managing to get the better of things, but congratulations to May, showing us a bit of a clinic on Katsu.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that was, I think, really well navigated by both players. And like I said, unfortunately, like sometimes these ninja decks can just have these really explosive turns that are kind of hard to run away with, and like Gravy can have that major damage output as well, but when you have to kind of play so carefully with your allies in this matchup particularly, that makes that kind of makes this a little bit harder for it. This is a tough matchup.
It
but
is.
I think, yeah, both players played well. Congratulations.
Yeah, really want to double down on that, actually. I think the matchup is difficult for Gravy. I think it's kind of the reason we're seeing these ninjas coming out of the woodwork. But both of these players put on a bit of a masterclass there. There's very clear understanding. I think both players understood what mattered. The Dishonor was relevant, keeping an eye on that mask the whole time. And, of course, May knowing that that was the threat they had to represent and chaining things together and correctly pulling back their Edge of Autumns. I think there was a lot of small spots in that game that less experienced players might have missed. And I think it'll be a really good experience to go back and watch that if you're interested in either of these heroes, to kind of learn more about those small edges you can find, even if you're on the Gravy side. You know, if you want to win those hard matchups, you've got to find those small edges, so learning them is really important. So yeah, loved that. Great watch. I'll watch it again because I'm terrible at Gravy Bones.
I love some Gravy Bones, but thank you for coming and commentating, casting with me today, joining the Rainbow Pitch League. Where can the people find more of you?
Yeah, if you haven't had your fill of me yet for some reason, you can come and find me at Howling Minds on just about every social media channel known to man, be that X, be it Blue Sky, be it everywhere. Come and find me as Howling Minds everywhere. Alternatively, if you want to catch me at events, I will be in the booth for an awful lot of events over the next couple of months. I'm in Copenhagen in 2 weeks' time, if you happen to be in that neck of the woods. I'll be in Montreal 2 weeks after that, if you happen to be in the other neck of the woods, on the other side of the planet, and many numerous events after that. So hop on my socials, follow along, and then come and find me at an event and eat food with me or something. It'd be great.
Super exciting. I'll definitely be tuning into those. But yeah, until next time, thank you so much.